This is episode 85 of the Sports Business Classroom Audio Experience with Darrell Miller. Today's guest is former professional baseball player and Vice President of Facilities and Youth Development, the first African American Catholic Deacon in Orange County, California, Mr. Darrell Miller. If the name sounds familiar, that's probably because it is. Darrell has been influential in the sport of baseball on and off the field and has made a huge impact for aspiring young athletes. Not to mention, his siblings have made a name for themselves as well. You might recognize the names Cheryl Miller and Reggie Miller, who are both members of the Basketball Hall of Fame. I was interested in talking with Darrell because of his desire to influence people to become the best they can be, not only as athletes, but as people and specifically in character development. Darrell's story and journey to where he is today is fascinating, so I want to give you some details on that before we get into our conversation. Growing up in a sports-minded family, encouraged by his dad and mom to use sports as a way to get through college, and God's grace helped pave the way that led to a professional career. Having a career in Major League Baseball that opened up opportunities for Darrell to replace Rod Carew at first base, backing up Reggie Jackson for 2 years, and then to play behind and learn from Bob Bell, arguably one of the best catchers of all time. To quote Darrell himself, to back up and come in and play with two Hall of Famers was truly amazing. I'm so excited to chat with Darrell. I can honestly say there are special people that you want to have in your life, and Darrell Miller is one of them. Welcome to the Sports Business Classroom Audio Experience. My name is Arthur McKibben, and I am an alum of the Sports Business Classroom Immersive Program in 2022, where I took part in the Scouting, Video, and Analytics major. For the next several weeks, I will be hosting an alumni takeover series where I highlight some of the people that I look up to in our profession. The path to success in sports, business, and life is not an easy one. There are many challenges and obstacles that must be conquered in order for you to achieve your goals. Personal growth and leadership development are two essential components that can help you to overcome these challenges and reach your desired destination. In this series, we will focus on the importance of personal growth and professional leadership development and how it can impact someone in their pursuit of a career in sports, business, and life. I'm super excited to be reunited with the SBC team again, and I can't wait to share with you all the amazing content that we have prepared. So without further ado, I give you Darrell Miller. Darrell, nice to meet you, my friend. Thank you for being here with us today at our Sports Business Classroom Audio Experience. And you have a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge that you've gained through Major League Baseball and working as an executive. And we're going to try and tap into that today, if you can, for our audience, our Sports Business Classroom alumni and people looking into getting into Sports Business Classroom coming up this next summer league. And if I could start out with a question of what inspired you to pursue a career in professional baseball?
Well, it was one of those things that it kind of calls you, really. It's one of the, the whole idea for us as a family, and my family is a large family that ended up using sports to get an education. And really it was all about trying to get an education and get your college paid for by using sports. Yeah. So I was able to, get an opportunity to play football and baseball in high school. And then I thought I was going to be a football player. I was recruited more to play football than baseball, to be honest with you. And ended up not, I was too small to play according to some of the trips I took, went to Arizona State and Stanford and a couple other places that were pretty good places to play back when there was the Pac-6, not the Pac, whatever, 22, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
And then, didn't get a bona fide offer, wanted to go play at UC Riverside. They had just won the Division II football championship and played baseball there, hopefully, and ended up going to Cal Poly Pomona, was recruited to go over there and play for a guy named John Scolinos at Cal Poly Pomona. And I didn't play football there, but I just played baseball. And that's how it kind of started. And then, got good enough to get drafted by the Angels in 1979 as a 9th round pick and just worked hard,
Yeah, that's pretty inspirational in terms of picking baseball over football. did that come to you? At what point in your career did you make that shift?
Well, it was at the end of high school, really. I was just trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I was starting to play baseball and had a really good senior year in baseball, which I had an injury as a junior and didn't play well and didn't play much. So it was kind of an epiphany, really. It's a moment where baseball kind of chose me almost. It's hard to describe, but it was definitely a surprise because I thought for sure I was going to be playing football at the next level and ended up playing baseball at the next level. And although I missed football, I really learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about baseball, and it was fortuitous. I got to go to Cal Poly Pomona and play for a really good coach. His name was John Scolinos, and one of the winningest coaches of all time, Division II. So we learned a lot about being a better human being, being a better person. Learned a lot about life, the lessons of life at Cal Poly Pomona. So that was a special time and a special place for me.
Yeah. Sports Business Classroom speaks about sports, business, and life. And so we'll be able to ask you some great questions about all three of those and have you help us understand what advice we can give to our students coming in and how they can make better decisions. What challenges did you face along your journey to become a professional athlete that you'd want to share with us? Well,
there's always injuries. There's always uncertainty. I got hurt a little bit as a freshman in college, but I was able to start as a freshman. Another guy got hurt, and I was fortuitous enough to step in his place and end up being the starting catcher, and no one ever does that, usually at Division I or II at that time. But I was able to start as a catcher, and I just learned how to catch as a senior in high school. So I really didn't know a lot about it, but I was at a place where they taught us a lot about baseball. We had routine pitcher-catcher meetings, so I really learned a lot about how to handle a pitcher and how to call a game and how to really play baseball and at a higher level. So that prepared me for pro ball, which I ended up being a little bit further advanced than most people were from a understanding on how to call a good game and how to catch a good game and actually how to lead a team. And that's from a little tiny Division II school called Cal Poly, but it was more about the instruction and our coaching. We were superbly coached, and that helped me immensely. So I got drafted in the 9th round by the California Angels, had no clue they were even looking at me. I didn't even fill out a card or any kind of information. So this is back in the 70s. And found out I got drafted through the Sporting News 2 days later, or 3 days later, or the week, whatever time the Sporting News came out, and I ended up signing a contract with the California Angels back in 1979, and that began my career through the minor leagues, which is quite an adventure.
So was it even on your radar screen to pursue a professional career? Or
we were all hoping. It's one of those. It's one of at that time, the way that you were scouted, there were actually people would go see you play. There were scouts that actually would go see you play, kind of like today still. Now there's more video involved. There's more, there's more information that's gathered, right. I think. But I think, at that time they did their homework and they thought I would be a pretty good fit. So I think, I was definitely open to playing pro ball. And it's one of those things you can't decide that I'm going to play pro ball. Right. I mean, you kind of can, but you kind of can't. Right. You have to be chosen. It's not something you can knock down the door and tell them people you're going to play for them. Right. You have to wait for that opportunity to come by and hope that you're good enough to be able to succeed. So, but I knew in my heart that I was good enough to play after my second year of college baseball, because I saw the guys that we were competing against that were at the next level, and I thought I was just as good as they were. So it was just hopefully I'd get an opportunity.
Yeah.
I'd get scouted,
Yeah, that's incredible. What do you wish that you had known at the beginning of your career?
I think at the beginning of my career, it would have been nice to know how hard it was going to be and how long it was going to take. And that's the hardest thing is, when you're trying to break into any sport as a player, you have to sacrifice a lot of your own personal time, and you don't get to be a normal human being anymore. In the minor leagues for baseball, we play 140 games. And then we'd play summer or winter baseball. So I ended up playing close to 200 games a year for the first 4 years I was in the minor leagues, just getting good enough to play, and also honing my skill and trying to make extra money during the winter time as well. So I'd go internationally. If I'd have known that I was going to need to learn Spanish, I would have. That's the one thing I tell everybody. I took Latin in high school, which actually is the base for all the Romance languages, as you already know. So it helped me to speak Spanish. But if I'd have known, if I'd have known that Spanish was going to be a really good language to know, I would have taken Spanish. That's the one thing I tell everybody I would have done different. I'd have taken Spanish and not worried about Latin. I wanted to be a doctor, and that was back when they would write prescriptions in Latin. Yeah. So I wanted to be a biology major. And when you play baseball or you play a sport, you don't have the opportunity to choose your major, because that's the other thing people don't understand, is that you have to be dressed on the field or dressed on the court early to be able to practice. So you can't major in what you really would like to major in, and that's the one thing that I think is unfair about collegiate sports, is you can't follow your real dream and get the degree you really like to get because of the amount of time you spend on the court or on the field.
Yeah, learning that discipline and the sense of hard work that it was going to require. Did that come from family? Did that come from your observation with your coaches? Did that just come innately inside of you?
I think it came from family. I mean, we were always taught to work hard and work harder than the next person next to you. There are no excuses. If you're not getting enough playing time, you have to earn it. So we weren't being coddled, and my dad was never going to go talk to the coach about getting us playing time. So you had to earn it. And I think that's the one thing that people don't understand sometimes, is you have to earn what you get in life. And you have to work hard for it. And I think that's the one thing. If you're determined, if you want to do something, if you work hard enough, you'll have a dang good opportunity to be able to do it. And it just takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes, hard work and practice.
Yeah. The audience for our SBC alumni, they're working to get into sports organizations, not necessarily athletes. How does that hard work ethic and that pursuit of that parlay over to that arena of trying to work for an organization, whether it's Major League Baseball, NBA, or the NFL, any kind of a sports organization?
Well, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes. I mean, you may not get the job you desire at the beginning, but you have to be willing to work in whatever you can work at. Does that make sense at all? So a lot of us have these preconceived ideas that, like, I want to be a GM. Well, okay, we all like to be a GM, or we all like to be a director of player personnel, or you'd like to be whatever job it is that you're looking for. Sometimes you have to take what's offered, or sometimes you have to be an intern so people can see your work ethic before you actually get a chance to get on the payroll. And that's a hard proposition. Right. If you're a former player, you have a little bit more of a leg up, because if you played at a higher level, we understand what it takes to play at the collegiate level. Most people that are looking to hire others, what dedication it takes to play at the collegiate level, Division I or II, because that means you know how to balance your practice, you know how to balance your homework, you know how to get along with people to be able to play every day. You need to know how, you have to stay late and get up early to be able to get your homework turned in on time and get the grades that you need to stay eligible at a minimum. So for most college athletes looking for a job, most of us know these guys or gals, young ladies or young men, have what it takes from a work perspective. And now they need to transfer, what they've learned at the collegiate level now to professional level, which means you got to kick it up beyond that, what you did in college. But we know you have the capability and understanding to do and to discipline yourself to work really hard. But now you got to go to the next level.
Yeah. I think the statistics are about 80% of college athletes go into upper management and run companies, and that I think that speaks of that discipline and the opportunity of hard work. What would you say are the most important qualities or skills to develop to be successful working either in baseball or any sport or working for an organization?
You know what? You have to, like I said at the beginning, be willing to do whatever it takes to get to the next level. And I don't mean illegally. I mean, just work as hard as you need to work. And then not be afraid to volunteer to do more than you're doing. I think those are the, looking at what's required and then going above and beyond what's required, like routinely. And then the other thing is learning how to ask questions, be humble, and to be helpful to others around you. In other words, be a good teammate. You see somebody struggling, you see we need a project done and somebody's asking for help. We can't be myopic and go, well, that's not my job. Or I hope they fail so I can get their job. It's more of you have to always remember the camaraderie and the teamwork is the most important thing that's going to get you to the next level. And then I'll also understand that there's room at the top. Don't think that there's only one job and therefore you're gonna create whatever enemy you need to create to be able you to be the one. It's to me, that's the opposite of what we want to do. We want to actually be teammates to where we celebrate others' success as much as we do our own. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's some great advice. When you look for that in a candidate to come to work for you in your organization, how do you determine, can you see that pretty quickly, whether or not someone's displaying that humility, that character, that teamwork, that being able to volunteer, and do you try to give them the benefit of the doubt or change that? Do you coach that?
Well, you kind of look at their resume and you can kind of see, what they've done and where they've volunteered. And the way that they speak about what they've done, when you ask them to bring their resume to life, if you will, you get an understanding if there's a sense of mission in the way they communicate. Mission meaning, I'm not doing this because I want to get paid. I want to do this because I have a real, that I have a place in my heart where I'm really thankful for what people gave to me. Therefore, I want to give it back to others. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So to me, I'm always looking for missionaries. I'm always looking for the grateful attitudes, the people that are they say things like this. You know what? I learned a lot from the coach that coached me, and that coach inspired me to be who I am today. Therefore, I'm going to pay it forward. I want to be in coaching just like she was, just like he was, and I want to make a difference in people's lives like they did for me. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I've seen that displayed in a lot of sports professionals, executive levels, where they are just really open to, they knew where they came from, they knew how hard they had to work, and they're very willing to, like you said, help somebody else, not guarantee, but to at least mentor and to help. And I've recognized that that's something that's very powerful for the students coming into SBC, coming into organizations, just not being afraid to say hi to you, basically, as as somebody that wants to help others and lead.
Amen.
Darrell, what do you think is the biggest misconceptions about making it as a player or as an executive? That if you were going to speak to our students specifically, to say, here's what I would say to that.
Well, there's very few that really make enough money as a player to be able to retire and not have to do anything else. I mean, you can count on, probably 10% maybe of the people that play at the higher levels in the NBA or NFL or MLB. Most people have to do something after they're done playing. And so that's the other thing I wish I would have known is that, how do you prepare for that? Because it's almost like you're afraid to prepare for when or if you don't make it or everything's finished, because you feel like in your heart you've surrendered. It's an interesting thing to be able to try to describe, but it's a phenomena that you almost feel like if I start preparing for when it's over, then I'm preparing to fail. Does that make sense? And so it's the absolute opposite of what you think. Because as I got older and after I got injured and I was, I had been in the big leagues probably 4 years, I had a couple more opportunities to play. And one of the people that, when I got released or sent down, one of the GMs said to me, general manager said, you're that type of guy, you really want to, you should stay in the game. And I was like, I don't want to talk about not staying in the game. He goes, well, no, you really need to think about what you'd like to do, because you're the type of guy that people would want to hire. So you really need to prepare, start thinking about it. And I said, thank you very much, but blah, blah, blah. And, but I did start thinking about it probably about a year later, because it was closer to the end, and I was trying to figure out how to be prepared. So it was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I didn't know it. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I think that's the number one thing, is starting to prepare, starting to think about what you'd like to do when it's over. You're not surrendering. You're not failing by doing that. You're actually forward thinking. You're preparing yourself in every way, shape, or form. You're asking good questions. You're being observant about the people that are with you, that are coaching you, that are supporting you. And you are also now understanding what the support staffs look like. And who they are and what they do. And it actually helps you to prepare for the future, because you're more than likely not going to be one that, first off, you're 1/2% just to get there.
Just to make it. Yeah,
and then you're not going to be part of that 5.5 to 10% that's all you'll ever have to do. Right. So, I think these are really important things to think about.
Yeah. Well, men typically, we get our identity by what we do. And so when you come into a sports professional team and positionally, that can add a sense of purpose or significance, to our lives. And there's a big shift there that has to take place. We see it now playing out. When is it time to retire? And some decide to stay a little bit longer than they maybe should have. But I think it's all about that identity. And what would you say, and as you work with young people in professional baseball now, how would you help them to develop that identity, and what aspects of who they are and building their character become really important for the long term?
Well, so you were talking at the beginning about, people that stay a little bit longer than they probably could or should. I think the whole idea is to stay there as long as you possibly can and get all your years in. If you can walk and talk legibly, the whole idea is to stay on that payroll as long as you possibly can. So there's two things I'd like to talk about in answer to that question. One is, I think you retire when you no longer feel like you can make a difference on your team. You can help the team win. That's when it's the right time to retire. Most people can't discern when that is. It has to be discerned for them. Because we're never going to be honest with ourselves, because there's so much ego into it. There's so much camaraderie. There's it becomes a part of you, dysfunctionally and functionally. Sure. But it's such a part of you that it's hard to let it go. Hall of Famers don't want to quit. And they get angry if they do get released or whatever. So, how do you make that work? Sometimes it just won't work, and sometimes it will. But I think ultimately, you have to be realistic with the way that you're playing and look in the mirror. And hopefully there are people that are close to you that are going to tell you the truth when you do ask. Because most people will go, what do you think? And if you have a significant other, like your wife, or a husband if you're a female player, or whatever.
Right.
Someone that's close to your mother, father, someone that you can trust, and when you ask the question, they'll tell you the truth. Then you're going to have a better shot at making the right decision at the right time. But ultimately, my God, you want to play the game. I mean, it's kind of like, it's in your DNA after a while. It's almost like who you are, which is really dysfunctional. But it's functional because that's almost what you have to be successful. Yeah. You have to sell out. I mean, like totally sell out, the rest of family, and because you're gone all the time and you're sacrificing time, and it's so hard to not be me, I, what's in it for me all the time. Because there's a lot going on. Yeah. Does that make sense? I'm not sure that I answered this appropriately, but those are the thoughts I wanted to share, because I think, I've seen Hall of Famers be so sad and angry and bitter and they played 19, 20 years and set all kind of records, and they're in the Hall of Fame, and they were upset. Right. And, I played 4 years, and I'm like going, oh, wow, I'd have done anything for 6 years or 7 years. And so, but it's, that's their reality. And it's hard to be honest with yourself when you've played at a higher level for a long period of time. That one step is a big deal. Yeah. That bat speed, that 2 miles per hour is a big deal to lose. That quickness is a big deal to lose, and it's very hard. When you talk to the older guys, I'm talking too much, but this is going to be kind of cool. No, this is good stuff. When you talk to the guys that were the Frank Robinsons and the God rest his soul, and all these great players that may no longer be with us, you talk to them and they were so realistic about their 19, 20-year career. Right. They knew they couldn't catch up to that 95, back at that time, 96 mile an hour fastball, now it's 100. But they learned how to cheat. Right. I don't mean illegally cheat. I mean like being able to figure out how to pick up the ball a little quicker, a little bit sooner, being able to, get the bat hit there or a little earlier by, starting it sooner than you normally would have. They learned how to get that 1 foot. They learned how to read the guy if they're from a defensive perspective, where he was going to go, because they'd been in the game so long, they could tell what was going to happen before it happened. So they had these instincts born of, playing so much that you almost know what's going to happen before it happens. And that's why you see guys that are, 50, 45 years old or 40, you're going, how can that guy still be that productive? Well, they know what's happening before everyone else does. Yeah. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. Yeah, absolutely. There's some important, significant days in your life, August 13th, 14th, and 15th. Or I think it would have been June, the day you made the debut in your Major League Baseball career. Speak to us about the day before, that day, and then the day after, as this dream kind of came true, and you just experienced that. So we're in Edmonton, and the Oilers. It was big league. Long story short, Moose Stubing calls me in the office, and he said, I got good news and bad news. He had a really thick accent from New York. I got good news, kids, and I got bad news. I go, what's the good news, Moose? He goes, you're going to the big leagues. And I was, having a really good season. Broke a finger, but came back a little early and kept playing with a broken finger. He goes, you're going to the big leagues. You're going to be playing first base. Rod Carew just got hurt. And I said, but I don't even have a first baseman's glove. He goes, Bobby Grich has one, I think, in his bag. So you're going to be playing first base, but you're going to do it. You're our best athlete. I go, okay. So that's the good and bad news? He goes, yeah, you're going to the big leagues. That's the good news. The bad news, you're playing first base tomorrow. And I go, all right, well, that's great. I said, are you sure Gritchy has a glove? He goes, yeah, I think so. Didn't even have a first baseman's glove. So this is, kind of like rare air. Get there. First thing I met the team in Detroit. And that was all at Tiger Stadium, the old Tiger Stadium. And the Tigers were really good at this time. This is 1984. We'll go right to Bobby Gritch. As soon as I walk in the locker room, Bobby, do you happen to have your first baseman's glove? He goes, I think so. He goes, I always have it at the bottom of my bag, which is what Moose said. So I got his first baseman's glove. It was flat as a pancake. Resurrected it with a little bit of, mink oil and shaving cream is really what I use to clean and everything. And I put a couple balls in it, played catch with it, just tried to figure it out. I had played 2 games at first base in instructional league 2 years before when another guy left, and I almost died then. I had no clue. So got to go play in the big leagues at first base. And really the only thing that really helped me was, I had a couple of friends on the opposing team that helped me like learn how to stretch and learn how to do some things. So I got called up to the big leagues, got my first hit out. Alpha McGregor hit a ball off the third base bag that I ended up beating it out. I hit a line drive off the third base bag, and then made a couple of nice plays and just didn't embarrass myself. That was my goal. I just didn't want to do anything stupid, and got through it kind of pretty much okay.
Pretty much okay. So the next day, thinking back, yesterday was my big debut. Was there a sense of relief? Was there a sense of, wow, this just really happened? Or,
well, the thing about getting called up, getting to Tiger Stadium. And then I actually played 1 inning in left field for Brian Downing. So that way they kind of got the jitters out of me. So I got to play that first night for an inning in left field. And then we got on a bus and went to Baltimore, and we played against Baltimore. And that's when I got to play the entire game, if you will. So it was surreal. To be honest with you, it's almost like two things that I really remember vividly. One is being at Old Tiger Stadium with the history of baseball and knowing what went on in Tiger Stadium was a little overwhelming, because you finally made it to the show. And the lights and the cameras and the action. Number one, it was like I was going, man, this is amazing. Right. The second thing was when I saw what the competition looked like, it wasn't like a whole lot better than it was at AAA. Like the guys that I thought were going to throw really hard and they were going to be unhittable. Well, they weren't unhittable. They just didn't make as many mistakes. And those are the 2 things I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is intimidating. The venue was more intimidating than the play. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, it's because it's such a big stadium. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us when you go from the lower level to the big level to the big leagues.
Right.
It can be an intimidating place to be if you're looking at it from a shock and awe type of perspective. If you're worried about just the game, it's the same game. It's the same. It's the NBA. They got to dribble. They got to shoot. Sure. You got to make a jump. You got to rebound. You got to box out. Major League Baseball, you got to be able to see the ball to hit it. You got to make sure that you watch the ball into your glove. You got to stay with the scouting reports. You can't be afraid to make a mistake. You just have to play because it's the game's the game is the game. If you put it on a pedestal, it'll be intimidating and you won't be successful.
Right. So for our students at SBC, their game is making it within the organization, working hard, they're diligent, they're putting in the time. What would you say to them to keep that dream alive and not be discouraged about the maybe what would seem like a lack of progress? Because they're putting on the uniform, is that getting that job, getting that opportunity, and how do we encourage them?
I think the big thing is you're always being seen. You're always being scouted. You're always being evaluated. whether you're an intern, unpaid, whether you're a paid intern, whether it's your first job, if it's part-time and then it becomes full-time, just remember people are always watching you, number one. Excuse me. And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
That's a good thing. And the more they're watching you and the more they're giving you feedback, you have to take it as a positive. If you think feedback is negative, you've already lost.
Right.
And you can't have an ego about what you're being told and the adjustments you're asked to make. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and then not be afraid to make the adjustments. And the one thing I always encourage everybody is if people are talking to you, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yes.
It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because they really are seeing something in you and they're trying to help you. Number one. Number two is the motto of every single thing you'll ever do is if you're first to come and last to leave, you have a really good chance of being successful. Right. And don't run out of the locker room at the end of the game. Don't show up right before the game time. Right. So just like if your shift's at 9 o'clock, don't be afraid to be there at 8:30. Don't be there at 8 o'clock. If you're done at 5, don't be afraid to prepare yourself for the next day and spend another half hour or hour off the clock. Sure. That shows people that you're committed to your job. You have hustle. You have that grit. You have that determination. Yeah. Those are the little things that go a long way. And the last thing is, don't be afraid to volunteer. Mm-hmm. Volunteer for, if there's something done that needs to be done, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail. Yeah. You mentioned, not being afraid of people talking to you. My high school basketball coach told me, as long as I'm yelling at you, don't worry. When I stop yelling at you, you have a problem. And I understood exactly what he was saying because he wasn't giving up on me if he was still yelling at me. Amen. Let's talk about becoming an executive director for a nonprofit organization. Your transition out of the playing field into the boardroom, and what inspired you to do that? And I think you mentioned it a little bit, but how did that path begin to open up for you? Well, and my job is like executive director. I'm more of a vice president of youth and facility development. I do more building and more, raising funds and more trying to get these projects paid for. Mm-hmm. So as much as I am the executive director, my job is more it's more, creative in regards to making sure we can build a facility with the Rangers at Dallas and being able to create those public-private partnerships. Does that make sense? Yeah. So my job was more public-private partnership creation and getting everyone on the same page to be able to, build these academies, raise funds, tell the story so that people were interested in making sure kids had a chance to play baseball at the lowest level and the highest level in the inner cities. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So my job was like a job that if I could have written a job description, it was exactly what I was doing. And so for me, it was a kind of a can of corn in regards to, can of corn means a pop-up that's not very high, it's easy to catch. It was using every strength that I had and my passion to be able to help other people. I think that the biggest piece for me was I had so many people tell me this is something I ought to be doing. And I said, no, I want to be a GM. I was a farm director and I wanted to be a GM. I don't want to do that stuff. I don't want to do that. So for me, it was more giving in to what countless people told me I would be good at. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I actually kind of ignored it for a long period of time before I was called, and I finally took the opportunity because I needed the opportunity and I found out how much I loved it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So for me, being, the executive director and helping as this stuff was really more of, I was led into my passion by a bunch of people telling me I should do it. Yeah. And then it wasn't until I was open to it that I actually find who I really was.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's not who I am, but it was I found where my passion lied.
Yeah.
Does that make sense at all? I hope it makes sense. And that's the only way I can say it. So what led me to the boardroom? My passion, because other things I was trying weren't working.
Sure.
My goal to be a GM wasn't going to happen. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking like I was asked to help with this academy in Compton. And I knew I liked some of the things I had started doing with a group called RBI, Revive Baseball in Inner Cities. And I kind of saw some things that needed to happen. And then I was asked by a guy named Jimmy Lee Solomon, who was the guy that helped create these youth academies. Mm-hmm. I was asked by him to come and finish the construction at Compton and build all these other academies. So I was sheepishly driven into my passion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To what became my passion, and I thank God every single day that that He was preparing this pathway, and I was just kept saying no and no and no until finally that was the only thing that was there.
Sure.
And it ended up being what I was built for. I hope this makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the reason this is important to say, because there's a lot of people that they have ideas of what they want to do.
Right.
And my advice is always listen to what people are saying about what they see in you, and don't have an ego because it doesn't fit into what your plan is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's really important for everyone to know this. God has a plan.
Right.
I'm a man of faith.
Yeah.
God has a plan, and He's not going to give up on you until He gets you to where you want to be. So if this is the one thing I want to tell the people that are watching and listening, you may not think this is what you're supposed to be doing, and people are telling you they see you as this. Don't be afraid to listen.
Right.
Don't be afraid to ask, why do you say that? How would I do what you're asking me to do? What are the steps? Because if people are saying this, they're ready for you to accept.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because no one is going to talk to you again.
Yeah.
No one's going to say anything to you if you don't have what it takes.
Right.
You're not going to, and you could be that guy and most of us want to be a GM. We want to be in control. We want to be a director of this, or there's something we want to be able to brag, or we want to have more money. There's something that we're looking for that may not be real, or may not be altruistic, or it may not be what we're supposed to be doing. So, the one thing I do want to make sure we talk about is, I was led to this. Yeah. So to go like I had to develop the skills.
Sure.
And I had to actually learn how to be disciplined. I had to learn how to be organized. I learned I got my Franklin system, and I went to my, that the number one thing is be organized. Like I said, it's come early, stay late. And then communicate.
Right.
Communicate means you got to listen to what people are saying, and also you have to be able to share something. And if you don't have something to say, don't say it. Don't think you have to share something if you don't have anything to say. So those are the wisdom things: is listen to what people are telling you, because people, if they like you, they're going to tell you where you're going to fit, and no one's going to. I won't say no one. There may be people that you may think they're steering you wrong, and there may be people that are steering you wrong. It's kind of hard to discern. Right. But if you keep doing the right thing the right way for the right reasons, you're going to have a dang good chance of being successful.
That's nice. My mentor, John Maxwell, he says, when you've tasted significance, success is not enough. And it sounds
That's
like,
well said. I like
significance really impacted a sense of significance.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down, because that's the truth. That's really truly what it's all about. When you feel like you're doing God's work, you're doing something that needs to be done. Yeah. By someone that's when you're making it. That's when you're passionate. That's when things happen. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's big league.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to take some notes when I read this, listen to it back. There's a video clip of you at the opening ceremony of the commissioning of your park in Compton, and you mention about seeing your dream come to life, and it's a moment that is very personal for you, and really touched you in a very deep way. Can you share with us the impact that seeing your dream and being involved in that, what did that mean to you?
Well, like kind of back to where I was going, like I didn't know it was what I was supposed to do. Like I was fighting it. And, when you give in and you finally accept it and you go, holy Toledo, this is really, truly what I am supposed to be doing. I was so grateful that people didn't give up on me. My wife didn't give up on me. My boss, the people that saw this, had this vision for me, didn't give up, and they were persistent, and they kept telling me what they saw. I was really grateful, and to be honest with you, I'm still so grateful that to this day, it's been 19 years, however long it's been. 2005 is when I was hired. I've been so fortunate to be in this space to be able to see people's lives change. That's a big deal when you see people that need the help the most, get the help they need, and you see them get to where God wants them to go, like finish their degrees and have children, and now come back and bring their kids and share them with us at the Academy in Compton. It's like this circle of life type of thing where you're going, wow, I cannot believe what God's done, what we've been able to do just because I said yes. And you know what? And I just tried hard to do something that was, and I didn't know what we had to create something out of nothing. Yeah. Like nothing existed. And to create something like we've been able to create for the last 15, 16, 17 years. And you see the fruit, like it's the most rewarding thing in the world. Like I know that I've done the best I can. Yeah. Yeah. I did the best I could. And I feel like I made a difference just a little bit. And if I can die knowing I've made a little bit of a difference, just a little bit. Like I can't even celebrate me. It's just, I'm just that gnat on the fanny of a camel in the middle of the desert that was able to just do something and inspire people to do something. See, to me, that's most important is there's a lot of people coming behind all of us, and we need other people to have a sense of mission to be able to pick this up and go to the next level. Smarter than me, right? Faster, stronger. Like it's time for the next generation, this generation listening and watching, to listen, to really be passionate about something and to make a difference. Because like everyone watching this, there's someone you can impact in a positive way. There's somebody you can take to the next level. Everybody has the ability to influence someone in a positive way. And that's really, truly all I've been trying to do for the last 18 years as a job. I get paid to do it. Are you kidding me? So it's like the loaves and the fishes for me. So I got off kilter there a little bit. No, you're right on. I hope this makes sense. That
very much so. You've talked before about iron sharpening iron and the importance of being intentional about who you surround yourself with and who you allow influence your life. Speak to us about that.
John Scalinas, my coach at Cal Poly, says, show me who you're running with and I'll tell you who you are. You're running with donkeys, you're going to be a donkey. You're running with stallions, you're going to be a stallion. Surround yourself with good people, starting with the Almighty. That's how I was raised at Cal Poly Pomona. Never forget, where you came from and who spoke truth into you. So that's why it's important.
Right.
Surround yourself with good people. When I was hired to come to Compton and do this academy, I got people that I knew I could trust, people that had worked with me before, because we needed to build a team that was going to make a difference.
Yeah.
So I went back to the fundamentals, get the people that you can trust, that are going to work hard, they're going to be part of the solution. Iron sharpens iron. There was a sense of mission. There were missionaries that were doing what they knew needed to be done. All of us together. So, it's really important to surround yourself with the right people. When you have a chance, put together a team of people that believe and people that work hard.
Yeah. Have you been able to instill that as a culture in the youth centers and the youth communities that you're working with?
Yeah, for the most part, we're always, there's people that sometimes get in there that that don't really get it. But for the most part, 99.9% of the people, they're in this for the right reasons, for the right way. I think it's so hard in today's culture because there's so few opportunities. There's a lot of entry-level jobs, but there's nowhere to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So sometimes there's an entry-level job and that's it. And you have to be patient enough to be able to get to the next phase. And I think our society is a microwave society.
Sure.
And, we want to spend a year and a half at this job, then get to that job, then go to that job, and then I'll be doing what you're doing. You're going, well, that sounds good, but that's not how it works. It takes time. And so there's always lessons you can learn from wherever you are.
Right.
Just be patient. You'll find the next job. It'll find you almost. You don't have to worry about it. Just keep being really good at what you're doing, and everything else kind of takes care of itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And a lot of us want to chase the job title rather than just being good at what you're doing and let that all take care of itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing in our microwave society of ambitious young men and women that want to get to the next level real fast. And, once you get your foot in the door, those opportunities will be created by the way you do your job.
Right.
And you don't have to make it happen. It happens.
It happens.
When I say you don't have to make it happen, well, you do have to make it happen by working hard, coming early and staying late. That's how you make it happen. But the rest of it, you can't worry about. And that's the hardest thing. Because I was the same way.
Right.
You're looking around and go, oh, I want to do what that guy's doing. I want to be the vice president. I want to be this. If I could be a senior director, I'd be happy.
Right.
Well, no, just be happy with who you are, God's creation on this earth, making a difference where you are. And if you're happy and you stay happy, then people are going to want a happy person to promote to the next level.
Right.
If you resent, if you think you're not getting the opportunities, then you're going to make your own bed. So, and that's hard.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, because it's entry-level jobs. It's hard to make a living and survive in California,
especially
in New York,
California, yes,
and all the big boy markets. But it just is what it is. And if you want to be in the game, that's how it's going to be, and that's how it is. We can't microwave it for you.
Yeah. You shared that you converted to Catholicism after unsuccessfully attempting to convert your wife Kelly to your former Baptist faith. And you became a Catholic deacon in October of 2021, the first African American ordained in that office in the Diocese of Orange. Of all the accomplishments in your life, playing behind Hall of Fame players, how does that accomplishment impact your life personally?
Wow. Going to try to not cry here, but I think the most important thing is, I have to always go back to Mary and my wife, Kelly, as the the jumping off point into being a success as a person. My wife has been unbelievably kind, considerate, patient, and I attacked her character by trying to convert her. And I recently, in the last 20 years, I've really thought, wow, that was so unkind. That was so mean. And to accuse someone of not like being saved or whatever. And that's how sometimes people are thinking, you're taught to think. And that's not an excuse because it's still offensive. So I think once I keep on staying in that place, I think it's helping me to be a better human being. Because I'm no saint. I'm no deacon. I mean, I'm just a dude that like God chose. Right. And the bishop asked me to do it, and I said, yeah, I think I should do it. After becoming Catholic, I saw that there was so much good in that church, and it inspired me to be a better person. And I didn't have to do it all. God does it all. I just had to surrender and just cooperate. So, becoming a deacon became a game changer. And it's a shame that I was the first, African American to ever be asked to be a deacon in the Diocese of Orange. I think that's telling on where we are still as a nation. And a lot of things have come out in the last 5 or 6 years. We kind of know what's going on. But I think ultimately, I'm so grateful that, being the least of these that should be a deacon. I mean, not that I'm a bad guy, but, you never feel like you're good enough. And the one thing I'm learning more and more every day is you don't have to be. God's good enough. And all you have to do is be kind, patient, and make yourself available and let him take care of the rest. Because it's not about me. It's about him. So, yeah.
Amen. That speaks volumes to your character. And it's a privilege and an honor for me to have had this time to be with you and to be able to get to know you personally, and just what a difference that you're making in the lives of so many other people. Do you have any final comments or advice that you would give to our SBC students?
Well, the one thing that, if they're looking to be in baseball, I know most of the people are looking to be in basketball or other sports too, maybe possibly, but make sure that they see Tyrone Brooks on LinkedIn. He has a LinkedIn, and he's also created another place for Major League Baseball on LinkedIn. If people are interested in being involved in baseball, that would be a great place for them to start. So, or tyrone.brooks@mlb.com. So, but check out our stuff on LinkedIn, Major League Baseball. I have to give us a little bit of a shout out.
If people
from
wanted
a diversity perspective and all the other things, we're looking for good people all the time as well. And the one thing I do want to finish with, being in sports, it's so different than any other, like it's so contra recruiting. Like no one, you don't see, you see all these companies go to the colleges to recruit. Well, they don't go from sports teams to go recruit, really. So it's almost like you have to do the recruiting yourself. Okay. So that's the one thing I want all our students to know is there's a lot of information you have to gather, and you have to really do some research on how to find these jobs. And so that's why we've created some things with MLB on LinkedIn. So I think it's really important that if they're looking for those types of opportunities with Major League Baseball, focus on that. And also be open to, like I said before, you got to do a lot of research. You got to do a lot of you got to do a lot of legwork, because there's no recipe. Does that make sense? And very few people have programs like you guys have here with the NBA to where you're developing people. Like the MLB's, we're doing similar things with our diversity pipeline, and Tyrone's doing very similar things. So I think the teams are open to it, but no one's out going to get you. You still have to go find your way here. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So they can't be afraid to, keep on looking and hit those LinkedIn sites and all the other sites that are out there.
Are there opportunities available within your academies in Compton?
So you'll be get on LinkedIn and you'll see that stuff. So we have all kinds of opportunities for all the academies, and most of them around coaching. So we're looking for people that actually played baseball and have some experience. Most of those opportunities are coaching related, and trainers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. 2 final questions. Who is your favorite athlete, and who is your favorite thought leader that speaks into you the most?
Wow. So, athlete. The best athlete I've ever met was Bo Jackson.
Yeah.
He's one of the best I've ever seen.
I remember when he welcomed Brian Bosworth to the NFL.
Yeah. And as a player, oh my God, what kind of bat speed, what kind of unbelievable everything. I mean, the guy had all the tools. One of the best players I've ever seen, best athletes I've ever seen. My sister Cheryl second. She was one of the best female athletes I think I've ever seen. But I got to see her play, football with the boys and basketball, and I got to see her play softball and baseball with us. She's one of the best athletes I've ever seen as a female.
Right.
My coach still, John Sklinas, had a tremendous impact on me, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and my wife.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 people that have helped me the most. My wife, obviously, she's a saint to be living with me, first off. But but my wife is a really holy woman, really smart, really kind, really considerate. She's always thinking of others. One of the best people I've ever met, like in my life. And I got to meet Pope Francis like in September. And not that he's not a holy dude and everything else. But there's some, and Pope Francis is the real deal, don't get me wrong, but my wife is some kind of special. She's the real deal.
Oh, that's awesome.
Kelly's unbelievable. So, I've been blessed.
Yeah. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and getting to know you again, and love to continue our conversation somewhere else. Well, there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the SBC Audio Experience with Darrell Miller, former Major League Baseball player, the director of Major League Baseball's Urban Youth Academy, located in Compton, California, and the first African American ordained in the Diocese of Orange. Real quick, I just want to thank Darrell again for joining me today. Things that I learned today from my interview with Darrell Miller. Number 1, do not be afraid of hard work. Number 2, come early and stay late. And number 3, you can make a difference in the lives of others. That will do it for this week. I'm excited to learn and grow with you all through this SBC audio experience over the next several episodes. See you next time.